Good morning, imagine this. A 3-pound organ, no larger than a grapefruit, with the complexity of a galaxy, working tirelessly not just to keep you alive, but to help you think, feel, dream, remember, and create. This is your brain, a miracle of evolution and engineering, a system so sophisticated that we are only just beginning to understand it. Today, I want to take you on a journey through your brain's logic and function. A journey through neurons, networks, and the hidden intelligence of your own biology. I am Dr. David Berson, and my life's work has been devoted to decoding the architecture of the brain and understanding how its parts, both large and microscopic, create the seamless experience we call consciousness. The architecture of logic in the brain. Let's start with logic. Now, when we say logic, we often think of math, computers, or formal reasoning. But in the brain, logic is much more organic and much more powerful. It's the set of rules that govern how neurons talk to each other, how input becomes perception, how decision-making occurs long before you're even aware you've made a choice. At the core of this logic are neural circuits, tightly organized networks of neurons that process information in a rule-based but dynamic way. Think of them as biological algorithms. These circuits are not static. They adapt, learn, and rewire themselves based on experience. This is known as neuroplasticity, and it's one of the brain's most defining and hopeful traits. This adaptive logic allows a child to learn a language, a musician to master an instrument, or a stroke survivor to regain lost abilities. Specialized functions of the brain, but what about function? The brain isn't a homogeneous lump. It's a collection of highly specialized regions, each tuned for particular tasks. The frontal lobe helps us plan, solve problems, and control our impulses. The parietal lobe helps us process space and time. The temporal lobe gives us memory and meaning, and the occipital lobe is the gateway to visual perception. And yet, the real magic happens when these regions communicate. No thought, no behavior, no emotion exists in isolation. They are the result of networks, dynamic, distributed systems that coordinate activity across the entire brain. Vision as a window into brain function. One of the best ways to understand brain logic is through the visual system, an area I've studied extensively. The retina, often thought of as simply an eye component, is actually part of the brain, and it doesn't just send information to the brain. It processes it. There are cells in the retina that already begin interpreting motion, contrast, and even direction before the signal ever reaches your visual cortex. This means that perception doesn't begin in the back of the brain. It starts in the eye. This distributed processing exemplifies the brain's efficient, layered logic. The takeaway: you are your brain, and more so, what does all this mean for you? It means your thoughts, memories, emotions, your very sense of self are the result of physical processes. Neurons firing, chemicals exchanging, circuits engaging, and yet, somehow, out of this machinery emerges something deeply human: intuition, creativity, consciousness. But perhaps the most empowering idea is this: your brain is not fixed. It changes, it learns, it heals. Understanding your brain's logic and function isn't just an academic exercise. It's a doorway to better mental health, sharper learning, stronger memory, and deeper empathy. The brain operates through biological logic, unlike digital logic, which is binary and predictable. The brain's logic is dynamic, adaptive, and biological. It relies on billions of neurons, specialized cells that communicate using both electrical impulses and chemical signals. These neurons form intricate circuits that process everything from the color you see to the decisions you make. Every time you recognize a face, solve a math problem, or recall a memory, specific patterns of neurons fire in organized, logical ways. These patterns aren't random. They follow clear principles of information flow, inhibition, and excitation. This logic isn't conscious, it's embedded in the structure of neural networks. The brain figures out what's important, filters out noise, and makes predictions constantly, often faster than we're consciously aware. Understanding this underlying logic helps us see the brain not just as a reactive machine, but as an active processor, always interpreting and shaping our experience. Neuroplasticity, the brain learns and adapts. One of the most powerful and hopeful aspects of the brain is its ability to change a property known as neuroplasticity. Contrary to old beliefs that the adult brain is fixed, we now know that it remains capable of rewiring itself throughout life. Neuroplasticity allows us to learn new languages, pick up new skills, recover from brain injuries, and even adapt to new environments. For example, when someone loses vision, parts of their brain associated with sight can be repurposed to process sound or touch. This flexibility is the brain's way of optimizing its resources. On a smaller scale, when we practice something repeatedly, like playing an instrument or meditating, new neural connections are formed and existing ones are strengthened. It's this adaptability that makes growth and recovery possible at any age. Our choices, habits, and environments all influence how our brain reshapes itself over time. Specialized brain regions have unique functions. The brain is not a single, uniform structure. It's divided into distinct regions, each responsible for specific functions. For instance, the frontal lobe helps with decision making, planning, and self-control. The parietal lobe processes spatial awareness and movement. The temporal lobe handles memory, language, and understanding. The occipital lobe is dedicated to visual processing. However, these regions don't work in isolation. They form a vast network where constant communication takes place. For example, when you read a word aloud, your occipital lobe processes the letters, your temporal lobe interprets the meaning, and your frontal lobe plans how to say it. This division of labor allows for high efficiency and speed. Understanding these specialized roles helps scientists pinpoint which areas of the brain are affected by diseases like Alzheimer's, strokes, or trauma, and develop targeted treatments to aid recovery or improve function. The visual system shows brain efficiency. One of the most fascinating areas of brain research is the visual system. Contrary to what many believe, vision does not start in the brain's visual cortex. It begins in the retina, which is actually part of the central nervous system. The retina contains specialized cells that already begin processing information about motion, light intensity, and edges before sending that data to the brain. This means your brain starts interpreting the visual world the moment light hits your eyes. This is an example of distributed processing, where multiple areas, from the eye to the brainstem to the cortex, handle parts of the task simultaneously. It reflects how efficient and hierarchical the brain's logic is. Rather than wait for a single processor to do everything, it delegates tasks to areas best suited for them, saving time and energy. Consciousness emerges from physical processes. At the heart of neuroscience lies a profound truth. All your thoughts, emotions, memories, and sense of self emerge from the physical activity of brain, the firing of neurons, the release of neurotransmitters, and the interaction of billions of cells give rise to consciousness, the experience of being aware. While this may sound mechanical, it's incredibly beautiful. From a biological perspective, love, creativity, fear, and imagination all have identifiable brain pathways. This doesn't make them any less meaningful, rather, it helps us understand ourselves more deeply. It also opens the door to treating mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or PTSD with real, science-based interventions. The more we understand the physical roots of consciousness, the more we can appreciate how complex and miraculous the brain truly is. Understanding the brain empowers us ultimately. Learning how your brain works gives you power. The power to shape your habits, improve your learning, and take control of your mental health. When you know that the brain is plastic, you realize you're not stuck with your current limitations. You can train your brain to be more focused, more resilient, more empathetic. You can take steps through sleep, diet, exercise, mindfulness, and learning to enhance its performance. Understanding your brain also helps you understand others. It fosters empathy, reduces stigma around mental health, and promotes a science-based approach to wellness. Whether you're a student, a teacher, a parent, or simply a curious individual, neuroscience gives you the tools to better navigate your life and relationships. In closing, the brain remains one of the greatest frontiers in science. The more we learn about it, the more we realize how little we know and how much possibility lies ahead. So I invite you to stay curious, ask questions, protect your brain, train it, challenge it, because in doing so, you're not just learning about yourself, you're shaping who you can become. Thank you.